Hey everybody, HomeSliceHenry here, and I had a pretty crazy run today in the Open Ultra League with a pretty unexpected Pokemon. Today I used Florges. Florges is a meta threat in the Master League, but I'm using it in the Ultra League. It's a Pokemon that's almost never seen in the Ultra League, but with its unique fairy and grass coverage, it can serve as a core breaker to a lot of teams that rely on dark types like Malamar, many water types, and Zygarde. I went on an 11-2 run with this team up to 3279 ELO. So without further ado, let's hop into the matches and take a look at this team in action. Hopping into the first match, picking up a pretty okay lead, leading Malamar into Pangoro. Here, I am going to farm up to the back-to-back superpowers and CMP tie a foul play with their close combat. This way, they're forced to commit the shield, because otherwise they would just get knocked out by a potential superpower. They will end up shielding, undertapping a Night Slash, and that's very okay for me because my Malamar still has enough health that I won't get karate chopped down. I will end up going for yet another bait, so I will go for the foul play once again. They're going to commit the shield and go for another Night Slash. As long as we don't see a boost here, I should be able to make these superpower. There's the switch into Talonflame, and I get to save that move for later and send in my Lapras. Lapras is going to be firing off a Sparkling Aria before my opponent makes a move. No one move knocks out here in the Ultra League, so my opponent is not only forced to throw one move, they're forced to throw both. So they go for the Brave Bird. Lapras would have made another move, maybe even Psywave down, so they're forced to throw another move. Now they're completely energy dry, and I can bring in Florges. Florges gets a really healthy farm down. Opponent, they're thinking about it, and I'll never know what they had in the back because they conceded the match. We move to the next match, picking up a good lead leading into Cobalion. Opponent safe switches into Golisopod. I bank a foul play on the Malamar, and I send in Lapras. I'm very okay losing switch here, because the Cobalion's not going to have anywhere to go if I have a Malamar and a Florges. So I just decided to get a ton of Malamar farm, as Malamar energy is basically unwallable, and then I get to send in Lapras. I am very intentionally running Ice Beam on this team, as Ice Beam on Lapras actually allows Lapras to beat Zygarde. If you run Skull Bash, you lose to Zygarde, and I really don't believe in running an Ice type that has an ability to lose to a Dragon Ground type. So I'm going to be firing off a last-second Sparkling Aria. It will not knock out, but I can just get even more farm on the Malamar. We'll have to see, do they send in the third, or will they bring back in the Cobalion? And they're going to send in the Cobalion. Cobalion is now going to be met with a superpower. This will inflict some serious damage. Superpower into the Cobalion is going to be shielded. I switch into Florges, and in the back, they have Shadow for Alligator. This is the exact kind of team I'm trying to break with Florges, a team that relies on a fighter or dark type. In this case, they have the fighter Cobalion, and they pair it up with waters. So Florges is just a complete core breaker. They don't really have a lot of counterplay in this situation. I'm able to force the CMP tie here. I shield up the Hydro Cannon, go for another Trailblaze, and now I am plus 2 stages boosted. So this for Alligator, they're getting very winded down here. They cannot stay in. They're going to switch into Cobalion. And since I'm plus 2, I can just stay in and fire off a Moonblast. Moonblast is neutral damage. Normally, it would not be enough to KO Cobalion, but I've buffed my attack by 2 stages. Moonblast KOs Cobalion almost from full HP, and we're able to take the win. We see the worst case scenario lead in the next match, leading Malamar into Tinkaton. This team is very, very weak to Tinkaton. I'm going to stay in to start with, throwing 13 Psywaves and a superpower to get a little bit of chip damage, sending in Lapras, hope they throw some energy, but they don't. They're going to save that energy and send in Blastoise, and things are going from bad to worse. As anytime you build a team, there's going to be certain Pokemon that you're weak to, and I accepted that I was going to be weak if my opponent had the XL Tinkaton. But unfortunately, here I am seeing it, so I'm in a lot of trouble. I will shield up the Skull Bash because my only way of beating the Tinkaton is going to be if I'm able to preserve HP on the Lapras. So I'm able to burn the Switch Clock, send in the Malamar, they switch into the Tinkaton, and I will go for the Foul Play bait. The Foul Play bait is going to be shielded. I honestly wasn't expecting a shield there, so that works out pretty nicely. Opponent is now going to fire off a Play Rough. That does big damage. Malamar is able to make a last-second superpower. This will not be enough to knock out, but it will put them in a range where I can knock out with the Lapras. So I bring back in the Lapras, fire off the Sparkling Aria, and that will pick up the KO. In the back, they have a Shadow Grumpig. Oh my goodness, so many Lapras counters. I send in the Florges, and now I have a call to make. I'm predicting they're going to snipe with the Blastoise. So I undertap the Trailblaze. There's the switch in. They're trying to combo me, but I deny the energy with the Trailblaze. That forces them to use their final shield, and now I think I may have a chance. They go for the Hydro Cannon, in comes the Lapras, and they throw instantly. This is not enough energy for the Skull Bash. I can let this go. I need to Psywave all the way down, because I'm going to need a lot of moves to hit that Grumpig. So I will end up committing the shield as they go for the Hydro Cannon. Lapras is going to get the full farm down. Back in comes the Shadow Grumpig, and I'm going to go for the double Ice Beam. Ice Beam does do slightly more damage than Sparkling Aria, and it looks like we've done it despite being so weak to an opposing XL Tinkaton. We fight back. We're able to make the plays needed to get that win. We see a bit of a tricky lead in the next match, Malamar into Golisopod. If my opponent throws right away, I'll just commit the shield, but here they actually overfarm watching for a potential catch. I think they're going to do one in the move, so I'm going to do one Psywave, switch, catch on Lapras, and sneak a Psywave as well. Very happy to catch the X-Scissor here. They actually Aqua Jetted to cover for a catch, but I caught on a water type, so that actually worked out. And I think here they may not have realized that I snuck when I caught. They were looking to do 6 and then switch out, but in doing so, I can actually force a shield, burn the timer, so when they bring in Registeel, now the switch clocks are very misaligned. I am going to overfarm over 100 energy here intentionally because I want to leave with 100. So I'm constantly just waiting until I can switch out into the Malamar. I'm able to reset the debuff on the Lapras, and I think the energy will be more useful later on. They get another Zap Cannon debuff, which is so unfortunate. I farm up to the back-to-back moves, knowing that after this, their clock will be up. So I'll click the foul play. Opponent is going to win the CMP tie there with the Golisopod. And I'm just going to let this go. They did go for the X-Scissor, that's very fine. I send in the Florges, and unfortunately I get the one turn bring-in lag. But my opponent actually blinded through an X-Scissor expecting it was going to be the Lapras. So even though I did miss my turn, I'm very happy that they blinded through the X-Scissor. This is going to be the Aqua Jet, and now I will get a pretty massive farm down with the Florges. In comes the Registeel. I can switch and do a combo play with the Lapras. Lapras unleashing Sparkling Aria, that's going to connect. In the back is going to be a Shadow Swampert, and oh my goodness, my backline absolutely shuts down Swampert. Swampert has a terrible matchup into Lapras, and obviously Florges can inflict massive damage with Trailblaze, although I would want to be at a slight energy advantage to avoid having to deal with a Sludge. Here, my opponent has farmed up to the back-to-back moves, but Shadow Sludge just doesn't KO. I have a pretty bad Lapras. It still doesn't KO. They're forced to fire off both their moves. And now, Florges will be able to close out this game. My opponent is going to make a nice catch of the Trailblaze onto Registeel, but I should just be able to farm back up as I still have a shield intact. So I will be committing the shield. They've debuffed on every Zap Cannon so far, and this one is no different. They debuff again. I think they went 3 for 3 on Zap Cannon debuffs in this game. Trailblaze is going to set up a farm down for the Florges, and Swampert does not have a move banked. So now we get some pretty nice overkill in this matchup, as Trailblaze will easily KO that Shadow Swampert. We move to the next game, leading Malamar into an opposing Malamar. I am running a pretty high rank Malamar. I believe mine is the rank 11. So I'm not expecting to win charge attack priority in this matchup. Even if I do have to end up soft losing this matchup and getting farm on Florges, that's okay by me. So I'm going to farm up quite a bit, and I will go for 2 foul plays, and the final move I will be going for a superpower, as obviously I don't want to debuff my damage just yet, but I do want to go for the harder hitting move when it will be able to knock out. My opponent is going to go for the foul play. I build up to the back-to-back. Looking at the HP remaining after this foul play lands, I think a second foul play wouldn't quite knock out, so I do like the decision to superpower here. My opponent actually loses the CMP tie, which is a pretty big surprise, but that works out pretty nicely. They send in Hippowdon, I pivot into Lapras. Lapras farms up a ton of energy, but they pivot out into a Jellicent, and this is really not good. My opponent is super weak to Florges in the back, but they banked a ton of energy on Hippowdon, and my Lapras energy is completely useless against this Jellicent. Jellicent is going to absorb that Aria, no problem, return fire with the Shadow Ball, and that just does so much damage. I'm going to continue chipping away here, doing what I can in this matchup, firing off another Sparkling Aria. Clock will be up soon. In comes the Malamar. Nice overfarm by my opponent. They are not going to let me get another move. So Jellicent will be able to pick up the knockout. Down goes Malamar, and now I get to send in Florges. Back in comes Hippowdon. Hippowdon did store a lot of energy before switching out. I'm shielding up the Scorching Sands. My attack does get dropped. That is unfortunate. Trailblaze now not going to do nearly as much damage. Opponent knows this, they are going to let that through, and I continue to farm with Florges. Another move reached by my opponent, I'm going to be letting this through. It does end up being a weather ball bait, which does work out pretty nicely. I get to launch another Trailblaze, and now this will actually have my attack at +1. I continue to farm with the Florges. Opponent is going to be firing off more energy, and again, I'm very okay letting this go. It is going to be the Weather Ball. There's the quick switch into the Lapras, and the energy stored from earlier is suddenly threatening. We see a shield from the Hippowdon, opponent switches into the Jellicent, and here I do accidentally play to the CMP tie. I meant to throw one sooner, but regardless, I still have a shield, so I'm in an okay position, because the Sparkling Aria will get to land, and now it's all about just trying to Psywave everything down. I get the Psywave down of the Jellicent, in comes Hippowdon. Hippowdon just can't get to the 2 moves that it needs, so we're able to take the win, as I was really close to a move on Lapras, and really close to a move on Florges. We move to the next game, Malamar into Blastoise. This is the non-Shadow Blastoise, so overall this is pretty solid for Malamar. Malamar is going to farm up quite a bit of energy, and I will strike first with the Foul Play before they can potentially fire off a Skull Bash. Usually in this matchup, Blastoise will end up just going straight Hydro Cannon, but I do want to cover my bases. So they are going to go for the Hydro Cannon. That works out very nicely, and now I will get to fire off the Superpower. I'm going to stay in here for 2 Psywaves and go for a catch of the Hydro Cannon onto the Lapras, and we get the catch. This catch will help waste their energy, but look at this. My opponent predicted my play perfectly. They went for the Skull Bash. I lose so much health in the Lapras, and when Virizion gets brought in, suddenly I'm in danger of a Leaf Blade knocking out. If it was a Hydro Cannon Getch, I could very easily live a Leaf Blade and I wouldn't have to shield. So an incredible heads up play by my opponent puts me on the defensive in this game instantly. Virizion is going to be firing off another Leaf Blade. I'm just hoping that at some point they just decide to let the Virizion go. That's what I would like. But they're not going to do that. They're going to stay in here with the Virizion farming up a ton of energy. There's the switch into Shadow Galarian Weezing. And Weezing, I don't think I can beat. It's obviously going to be crushing Florges. I'm forced to send in Malamar. Psywave will hit for super effective damage and fire off the Foul Play. Foul Play is going to land Weezing pretty low, so through the power of teamwork, this Pokemon has been almost removed from the field of play, but they Brutal Swing, they farm down. I'm not healthy enough on Lapras to be able to get a Psywave down. I'm 1 HP, so I'm forced to send in the Florges and just hope that they do not have access to Sludge. But as we're going to see here momentarily, they do have Sludge. Sludge does way too much damage. There's the combo with the Virizion, and unfortunately, this is my first loss with the team. I mentioned, I think, that I went 11-2 with this team, and that was one of those 2 losses. We move to the next game, and we get another Blastoise lead, but this time it is going to be the Shadow. The Shadow Blastoise, I think Malamar can do a bit better into the Shadow, just because the Psywaves and the Charge Attacks, it looks like with the Psywaves, the Charge Attacks can come pretty close to 2-shotting here, and they will do that, which is quite nice. I'm always going to let this go, because even if it's a Skull Bash, I can survive it. It is just going to be the Hydro Cannon. They're going to switch into their own Malamar, and now I get to respond with Florges. Florges is going to be completely walling off the charge attacks of the Malamar. Malamar is going to be firing off a Foul Play, and I have a choice to make. I think they're going to try and fight for swap, so I'm going for the Trailblaze. The bait pays off. We get the shield from my opponent, and now I will just go straight for the Moonblast. I'm looking to pick up the knockout here, as they keep chipping away at my health with more and more Foul Plays. So I'm going to be full sending the Moonblast. Opponent goes down 2 shields in this matchup. Look at the amount of damage I'm able to output, though, with these Fairy Winds. The Fairy Winds are adding up so much. Here, I am just going to go for the Trailblaze because they are right at their next move. I need Trailblaze to knock out here. Trailblaze does not KO. They barely hang on. I can still win switch advantage, but the uncomfortable thing is Blastoise is a move. But they actually don't bring in the Blastoise. Instead, they bring in a Shadow Dusknoir. This is a +2 Trailblaze that does big damage. In comes the Malamar. I click the Foul Play, and they make a nice catch onto Blastoise. Blastoise has energy banked. I'm going to switch into the Lapras. Lapras, at this point, my opponent is going to fire off a last-second charge attack, but at this point, my opponent just can't really win this game, and they are going to resign the match. We've got some spice on the lead in the next match, and we're going up against a very tough opponent in Marto Galde. Marto always runs some incredibly cool picks, so leading into a Mamoswine is a bit interesting. I'm going to throw 2 Psywaves here, switch into the Lapras, and hopefully catch an Icicle Spear where it's going to be double resisted, and we do get the catch. He's going to refarm some energy, out comes Shadow Fortress, and I am so happy to bait this out, my goodness. This is not realistically the thing that I normally bait out with a Lapras, but oh my, any steel type would be a nightmare for Florges. Here, we actually see an overfarm by the Fortress, and that lets Lapras get another move. The Aria lands, that's going to get them low. My opponent is going to go for the Rock Tomb. Rock Tomb is undercharged, so I aggressively pivot into the Malamar, denying their ability to farm down the Lapras, and now I just have so much loaded energy. Back in comes the Mamoswine, and that tells me that I need to prioritize Malamar. Something in the back does not want to see Malamar, so I will end up shielding up the Malamar and continue to farm. Opponent is going to switch in the back. Oh no, it's Tentacruel. Tentacruel, a poison type, would be a disaster for Florges. I'm just going to try and get as much damage as I possibly can onto the Tentacruel. I will get the back-to-back foul plays here, making sure to throw one Psywave before the second. And now I switch into the Lapras. Lapras is getting Psywave down, but I got my opponent very low. Here, I do get the one-turn bring-in. If they have Sludge Wave, they just win. I let it go, but it's a Scald. That does not knock out, and now I should be in the driver's seat of this game. I just need back-to-back Trailblazes, and if he switches, I can just throw right away. There's the switch, and we double up on Trailblazes. So despite a jump scare in the end game there with the Tentacruel, Florges able to hang on. We have the back-to-back Trailblazes, down goes the Tentacruel, and we're able to take that win. All in all, I had so much fun with this team. I was really not expecting much out of Florges. On paper, it seems like it should be very, very strong. It has so many targets. There's water types absolutely everywhere. Malamar is very common. The fighters are very common as well. So it seems like on paper, Florges should be really good. I had tried a Florges team earlier in the season, and I really didn't feel like it had good synergy, but this team felt like it had incredible synergy. I know Malamar and Lapras in their own right are an incredibly busted duo, but Florges I felt really held its own in a lot of matches, as Florges proved to be a really interesting core breaker across the board. It's by no means a meta Pokemon, but if you're looking to approach the Ultra League, obviously I know we have Ultra League and Great League Remix currently, so if you're looking to try and climb in the Ultra League, I think you could do worse than giving this team a go. I know Florges can be a bit difficult to evolve. I believe it's 30 Buddy Hearts, so it did take me a few days while I was in Milwaukee of just doing the free Buddy Hearts every day to finally evolve the Florges. But man, this Pokemon felt really good to use. I have a very high rank that could be part of it as well. I believe it's the rank 4 Florges. I don't usually get good PvP IVs on Mon, so hey, I will absolutely take it. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoy watching content like this, please do consider leaving a like on the video and subscribe to the channel if you have not. And a special thank you as always to our channel members here on YouTube. The support you guys provide is genuinely so appreciated. So thank you guys oh so very much. And until next time, I've been HomeSliceHenry.